Rhinoceros Club, but word got out fast. By the time Springsteen finally exited the stage and went into the night with a little help from some security, the room was probably 3 times its legal capacity. For the next 2 years, every interview we did started with the same question. What was it like to play with Bruce Springsteen? We just put out that first record of ours. We're still searching for some idea of who we were and what, if anything, we had to contribute to the great, many-voiced conversation argument of rock and roll. And one of our heroes happened to walk into the club on South Green Street where we were playing. In that moment in American life, it seemed you couldn't turn on a radio without hearing Bruce Springsteen or buy a magazine without seeing him. But that wasn't what mattered to us. Not right then. It wasn't even the earlier records like Born to Run or Darkness on the Edge of Town that were on our minds, though we knew them line for line. When our dressing room door opened and Bruce Springsteen walked in, we had one thought. That's the guy who made Nebraska. Introduction. The King of Pop and the Beer Can. A few weeks after getting on stage at Greensboro's Rhinoceros Club, Bruce Springsteen wrapped up the first leg of the Born in the U.S.A. North American tour. The final show was in Syracuse, January 27, 1985, some 50,000 people in attendance. Having completed more than 90 shows and needing the break, Springsteen nonetheless got on a plane the day after the show and headed for A&M Studios in Los Angeles. There, he'd participate in the U.S.A. for Africa recording being produced by Quincy Jones. Springsteen flew commercial, then grabbed a rental car at the airport. He wasn't an entourage kind of guy. Roseanne Cash would later describe watching Springsteen walk unnoticed through a large crowd of New York City tourists, using only a hoodie. It's my invisibility cloak, he told her. He knew how to get around. When it came to Los Angeles, the city was a second home of sorts. LAX was a breeze. It was an easy, familiar drive from there to the A&M lot. They were valet parking cars at A&M. One of the attendants handling the operation was a top record executive willing to do some honest work if that was his only way to be a part of the evening. Husbands and wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, and children, none were allowed into the studio where the recording would happen. Steve Perry from Journey, first to come and last to leave, had already found a spot for himself in the control room when Springsteen was still on his way from the airport. He was watching Quincy Jones record Michael Jackson's vocal part, asking no one in particular, "Am I on drugs?" Springsteen, before getting to the valet parking, found a good spot on La Brea. It was something he couldn't resist. He parked on the street and walked by foot to the studio, passing the office inside the gate that had once belonged to Charlie Chaplin. The list of artists who showed up that night was striking. It still is. Willie Nelson, Diana Ross, Bob Dylan, Stevie Wonder, Dionne Warwick, Ray Charles, Tina Turner, Billy Joel, Paul Simon, Bette Midler, Kenny Rogers, Steve Perry, Cyndi Lauper, Al Jarreau. There were others. Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie wrote the song they'd be singing. Historically speaking, it was the largest gathering of star power ever to come together in a recording studio to perform what most of them believed was a terrible song. "I don't think anybody liked it," Billy Joel recalled. Cyndi Lauper is reported to have described it as a Pepsi commercial. How did it all come together? As Ryan D'Agostino would later recount in Esquire, the organizing was a matter of making a lot of calls, until Bruce Springsteen agreed to participate. Bruce was in, everybody wanted in. Michael Jackson, mostly quiet throughout a session that went all night, saw Springsteen's empty Budweiser can and asked someone to take his picture with it. When Michael Jackson is getting his photo taken with your beer can, you could say things are going well career-wise. Born in the U.S.A. was like a light shined